Hey guys, welcome to my channel. Welcome back if you subscribe and get all the notifications. If this is your first time watching, I compare and contrast movies and shows to the books and video games that inspire them, sometimes vice versa, all three, etc. If that's of interest to you, please subscribe and ring the notification bell to keep this channel alive and growing. This week's a fairly new release, for the show anyway, on Netflix. It is Alias Grace, based on a true story, and written by the same author as The Handmaid's Tale, Margaret Atwood. So the underlying current is that life isn't fair and people suck, and if you have X chromosomes, all bets are off. Okay, so what the book and the miniseries share is the true story of Grace Marks, that both are based on. Grace grew up very poor in Ireland, migrated to Canada with her family, took housekeeping jobs, and was accused and convicted of the murder of her latest employer and his girlfriend, kept in an asylum and later on in prison, and then was pardoned. The book and the show also share Grace's formative years as the oldest child of an abusive alky father, having to be assistant mommy with all her siblings, and getting her strength from her faith and the support of her mother and her aunt. Then, during their voyage to Canada, her mother died and was buried at sea, and it was a short time between their arrival in Canada and when Grace left her family to start working. There's also the close friendship she had with the short-lived Mary Whitney, the meaning behind all the quilt patterns and superstition with the apple peels, then her employment within the Kinnear household, where she was caught between Nancy, the head housekeeper and girlfriend of the man of the house, who would act like Grace's best friend one minute and then lash out at her in the next. There was also McDermott, who hated his employers and dragged Grace down with him when he went on trial for killing them, and Jamie Walsh, who just wanted to make a life with Grace. Later on, the details of Grace's incarceration in the asylum and later in the prison, and her time under Dr. Jordan's analysis before being pardoned many years later, and spending the rest of her life with Jamie Walsh. What is different is that in the show, it is entirely the Grace show. The book is half Grace show, half Dr. Jordan show. He details not just his observations in analyzing Grace, but his living arrangements with Mrs. Humphrey, with her unrequited crush on him, and her surly housekeeper Dora, who is moved over in the show into one of the houses where Grace works. Also different is the details of Grace's upbringing. We get the gist that Mr. Marks is an abusive alky from the show. We get a lot more gory details of his garbage human character in the book. He uses his wife as a punching bag. He spends all of his income in the taverns while his children are hungry, and the only support system Grace's siblings had was their aunt. The show also omitted, or even reduced, the squalor in the prison and the asylum, especially in the boat that brought them from Ireland to Canada, that largely contributed to Grace's mother's death. Also, when the Marks family arrived in Canada, their father found them a place to rent, a duplex, and he romanced his widowed landlady into cutting them a lot of slack with the rent. But when it became obvious to her he was just using her, is when said landlady became a little bit hostile to Grace and her siblings, and most importantly also to her father. And that's when Grace left to find live-in employment. As much as she feared for her younger siblings, she knew any money she sent to them would get spent on alcohol. There were also several less than optimal jobs and living arrangements between the first one, where she worked alongside Mary Whitney, and her last job for the Kinnear household. And that is all to talk about Alias Grace, Thank you so much for watching. I am still in the running for the Fab Over 40 competition and have made it into the top 20. I still humbly ask for your vote to pass into the top 15. The link is in the description. And if you enjoyed this video, please leave a comment and a high five on the like button. And I will see you back next week for Bram Stoker's Dracula.